commentary. Do you want to hear some of the best opinions and perspectives on information? Then what you need to tune to is Robert Noer of Normal America. Normal America is a play on words, but he doesn't play with you when it comes to his hard-hitting in your face, sometimes a little bit loud and gruff.
So, we need to wiretap. They left out. Oh, and he said our case is garbage. They again did the exact opposite of the truth. Again.
And other times, a little softer.
Charities of the groups that are sending that money. So, for example, there's been reports, and I haven't...
There's softer sides to Rob, and there's more up in your face. Which one are you going to get? Do you want to listen to somebody who's a little more abnormally smart than you? Do you wish you lived in a normal America? Well, then you need to check out Robert Noer. Of Normal America. Check him out today, guys. You won't be disappointed.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. What a big day. Today we learned something. I myself have learned something amazing that I didn't know, so it's a monumental day. Did I learn that Trump got acquitted? Nah, I knew that was coming. Did I learn that Romney's a rhino, an establishment goon who I never liked and refused to vote for in 2012? Nope, I knew that as well. What I learned is I cannot spell the word acquittal. Who knew that there was a C before the Q in acquittal? I think I probably titled my video wrong here. So thanks everyone for being here. It's been a good day. I'm your host, Robert North, the Normal America Show. I would claim, not only based on a coin flip, the best YouTube channel or the best independent content creator out there, but perhaps the hardest working one. I was churning out videos today. I'm working, doing videos, doing live streams. So I hope it's appreciated. Thanks for being here. No, really, I had fun doing it. And it was a big news day. So if I could ask you guys a favor just at the start, if you don't mind, share a link out on any social media you have that I'm doing the live stream now. Would be nice just to try to get some more viewers. But if not, let's be honest, the best of the bunch is here already. So we'll roll with the show as is. But really, I would appreciate if you could hit that like button real quick, whatever platform you're on, subscribe, and share me on social media. I'd really appreciate it. So here's the plan for tonight's show. It's impromptu. As you know, the only scheduled live streams I have are Tuesdays nights at 11 p.m. and then Fridays at noon. So this is bonus time because I thought it was a good news day. My plan is, because I've been so poor at this, I'm going to talk for an hour and we're going to try to do call-ins for an hour or so. So whatever's on your mind in that call-in section, first come, first serve, we'll roll. So I'll put the phone number out at the end of this hour, but I wanted to talk briefly about some State of the Union stuff and about the acquittal. So let's see. Let's start with the State of the Union stuff real quick. I don't have a lot to get on it. So I did 2 videos on it today. The first was Pelosi and her ripping that up. We'll skip that for now. The second story that I want to talk about with the State of the Union, which I actually thought was more interesting than the Pelosi story, because it says a lot about the Democratic Party and where they're at. And that is this news. Check out the video I did of Rashida Tlaib. And Tlaib admitted in an article in The Hill that she walked out of the State of the Union. Now listen, we know the Democrats are childish. We can see that from Pelosi, right? We know that. Trying to rip up the thing, shaking her head, her applause last year. Like, they're terrible. And the Democrats in the State of the Union are getting their cues from Pelosi. We know that. So I'm not surprised by the childishness. We know that some Democrats refused to even come to the State of the Union. Well, Tlaib and some other Democrats walked out. That's not surprising to me. There are all kinds of things that they could supposedly walk out. Lies over the economy or, whatever. Insert any issue. I actually was kind of taken aback by why Tlaib left, what the reason she gave was. So it wasn't supposed lies said, or Trump complaining about the Democrats, or Trump talking about the Obama economy. None of that. Wasn't him talking about the military or Soleimani. None of it. Sorry, I still have a cold here. I'm fighting through it. She got up and left, she said, when Trump mentioned the name Brett Kavanaugh. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. I've said on my show here that for me, the Covington and the Kavanaugh situations, even more than the impeachment stuff, are the biggest story that shows culturally where the Democrats are at as an establishment party. Now listen, to me, the biggest story in the country still to this day will be and continues to be the corruption of the intel agencies, their incestuous relationship with the media and the DNC, and them going after Trump. To me, that trumps, pun intended, everything. But when you talk about the cultural impacts of the Democrats, the Covington and the Kavanaugh situations blow my mind. In Covington, we learned that they will defend adult racists to attack children based on their skin color or their political preferences. That is something that you couldn't have made up if you were trying to be hyperbolic to talk about the dangers of identity politics. Literally, they're attacking children to defend adult racists. Mind-blowing. Kavanaugh is equally mind-blowing. In that, they went full postmodernist. They said there is no such thing as truth. Listen to Kamala Harris and Cory Booker very carefully in the Kavanaugh hearings. They keep talking about Christine Blasey Ford's truth, her truth, not the truth. And the narrative that was coming from the Democrats and their media mouthpieces over and over was, oh, well, regardless if Kavanaugh did it or not, he has to treat Christine Blasey Ford with respect, and the way he acted was terrible. That's garbage. It was a man fighting for his life. What do we have other than our family and our reputation? Kavanaugh did exactly what any person should do. They fought for their reputation, job be damned. Who cares if you got in the Supreme Court at that point if you're Kavanaugh? You're tired of getting smeared in front of your wife and children. But that alone, his defense of himself, was proof that he was unfit for the job and was guilty. That's what these Democrats said. Again, these aren't low-level Democrats. It's not random YouTubers like me. These were the people who are running for president in the Democratic Party. Feinsteins, the Pelosis, the Hironos, the Kamala Harrises, right? All of that crew. Cory Booker. Oh yeah, he's still running, isn't he? Oh no, Booker dropped out. That's right. That was a newsworthy story, right? But Kavanaugh, they got rid of the core concept of that our country is founded on. Again, I talk about what makes the United States the greatest country in the history of the world. It's because we are founded on the idea of the individual, personal responsibility, personal liberty. The legal codification of that is the concept of innocent until proven guilty. Maximized individual freedom. Now, yes, that means some guilty people will go free, but better 100 guilty people go free than one innocent person be locked up. So our system's set up that way. It's based on English common law. There's very good reasons for that. The Democrats said, nope, the concept is totally reversed. It is now you are innocent or you are guilty until proven innocent. You see that with the impeachment stuff. That's why I started with this, because it'll move right into the acquittal. So, Kavanaugh was guilty until proven innocent. Now, I'm not going to rehash the whole thing, but let's just say that we know that there's a double standard. Christine Blasey Ford couldn't remember specific times, incidents. She had no contemporaneous witnesses. The one witness she said was there claimed that none of this was ever happened, and then that witness was attacked by Christine Blasey Ford's allies. Feinstein sat on the case for months and then brought it up at the last minute against Christine Blasey Ford's wishes. Her story changed all the time. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. Even the polygraph she took was under suspicious circumstances. All of that, and then let's just take a random example. Keith Ellison's ex-girlfriend or wife that accused him of assaulting her. She had contemporaneous witnesses, photos of damage that was done to her, police reports, specific times and dates that the incidents occurred, proof that they actually had met, unlike Christine Blasey Ford with Kavanaugh. Yet every single Democrat that was outraged about Kavanaugh, at the exact same time the Ellison situation was going on, did not say one word. What did Mark say? Someone says Mark's correct. Yeah, the chick, she was crazy. Go back, if you type in my channel and then Kavanaugh, I have probably dozens of hours of material on it. So I'm not going to rehash it all, but we know the truth, all of us here. What's amazing here is, I keep saying, the Republicans, or you don't even have to be a Republican. Maybe you're a Democrat. Maybe you're a lifelong Democrat. Don't you want your party back? Aren't you tired of these corrupt identity politics pushing establishment goons ruining your party? I'm not a Democrat. If I was a Democrat, I'd be furious. They're not talking about issues. Instead, they're saying, we'll call kids racist. We'll defend racists to attack kids. We'll accuse people of sexual assault with no proof. When people that are on our side are accused of sexual assault, we'll go after the women and say that it never happened. Ask Juanita Roderick. Aren't you tired of that if you're a Democrat? So Republicans, Democrats, anyone who's interested in actually having a non-corrupt political system, every day should be reminding people before they vote, this is what the Democratic Party is. Remind them of the Covington and Kavanaugh situation. Every day. So what's mind-blowing is that Tlaib admits just hearing Kavanaugh's name was enough to infuriate her to walk out of the State of the Union. Now let this be a reminder, lest you forget. One, if they could do it to Kavanaugh, they could do it to any of you. Second, even if you're a woman or even if you're anyone and you're really concerned about actual sexual assault allegations and you think the beginnings of the Me Too movement were a good thing, can't you see how this is perverting actual justice? It's going to harm actual sexual assault victims. And by the way, when you could just arbitrarily smear men or whoever, but let's say men for an instance, and they're guilty until proven innocent, it doesn't just affect those men. Ask Kavanaugh's wife. Ask Kavanaugh's daughters. Is that the feminist thing to do? Ask Christine Blasey Ford's friend, who refused, despite being bullied by the establishment and threatened by the establishment, refused to go along with Christine Blasey Ford's garbage story. In the name of feminism, in the name of believe all women, they'll run over men, women, they don't care. And remember, it's only believe all women if they're targeting conservatives. What Tlaib did is so disgusting, it is beyond belief. And what it shows is, just like with Clarence Thomas, once you're accused, it doesn't matter what proof there is, you are marked for life. Tlaib said it vocally. All of the Democrats, not all, but many of the Democrats running that party, the media allies that are just corrupt mouthpieces for them, that whole class of people, he's marked for life, Kavanaugh. He's a rapist. Kavanaugh's daughters have to grow up knowing that the most elite, powerful people in this country continue to smear their father as a rapist with no proof. None. So much so that they could get on their high horse and feel morally superior to you that, well, I walked out of the State of the Union because Kavanaugh's name was mentioned. You don't think this is serious? I'm telling you. Not only will this corrupt our entire political system, as we'll see in 2020, wait until you see the sexual assault allegations that come out of nowhere against Trump and other Republicans. But this will, if it's allowed to continue and it's not punished and it's not called out for the absurdity that it is, it will destroy our country, not just in a political sense, but in a cultural sense. You think you're safe? You better not offend anyone who's not willing to, or not afraid to weaponize sexual assault allegations, because your life will be ruined. You'll lose your job. You'll lose your friends. You'll lose your reputation. You might lose your family. All based on innuendo and accusation. It's the Salem witch trials all over again. Except this time sanctioned by people that claim to be morally superior than you. So I just wanted to do that little bit. Please check out my video. If you guys like my live streams, check out my non-live videos. They're exciting and fresh. And I'm trying to take people's advice. I'm trying to keep them under 10 minutes. So most of them are around 5 minutes. So check them out. Check it out. I did that video on Tlaib today. Also, briefly worth mentioning, another video I did that's kind of a funny video is Sheila Jackson Lee claimed that you know who's responsible for the Iowa caucus mishap. You ready? Drum roll. It's the Russians! The Russians did it! We need to investigate the Russians! Do you see this playbook? Do you see what's happening? I mean, for God's sake, Schiff was saying in the impeachment hearings that supposedly are about Ukraine, that if we don't vote to remove Trump, that he'll sell Alaska to Russia. This is the guy leading the impeachment charge. Now, the same mainstream media that Alex Jones is so dangerous to the country. People that believe in conspiracy theories are so dangerous to this country. They'll uncritically celebrate Sheila Jackson Lee and Adam Schiff's Russian wet dreams, won't they? Russians under every bed. But I've realized, why fight the Democrats on this when I could join them? So I'm officially taking the official Democrat point of view, and I now realize I've never done anything wrong in my life. All of my failures and shortcomings are merely because of Russia. Russia was out to get me. Yeah, I know, that's gross. Why do I only have 31 people watching right now? The Russians are suppressing everyone. Why do I only have 1,400 people subscribed to my channel? Russians! Ooh, the Russians! They get me all the time. The Russians try to make me pay my mortgage and pay my electric bill, and the Russians make me pay my student loans back. And all of those companies, my mortgage company, yeah, they're Russians. That's why they want my money. Yep. All of you people that aren't donating to me on Patreon and PayPal, you're all Russians. That's what's going on. Wow, this is great. Woo, feels so good. Here, I thought that I did things in my life. I thought that I had personal responsibility. But it's so much easier to just say, oh, no, I've never done anything wrong. It's all the Russians. If you guys don't send me money on Patreon and PayPal, there's a solid chance that Mitch McConnell will do cocaine with Putin and sell them Texas. I mean, that could happen. So yeah, you have to support me. So you don't want to give in to the Russians. Johnny, good night. Thanks for sticking with me. I knew it, Series for Life. I knew that was you. Comrade, yeah. I do drink Stoli if I'm drinking vodka, so... It's unbelievable. It's so stupid. So let's get to the good news, the acquittal. I got 45 minutes before I take calls, so there's a lot to say. Thank you, Gail. I agree. I think I make sense. Barry Goldwater's on here. That's fantastic. Yeah, of course, Putin's for the Second Amendment. Putin's for free speech. You know, Putin wants conservatives to be allowed to speak on campus, so we shouldn't allow that, you know. It's so stupid. Anyone with half a brain could see how insane this is. There's still, even after, remember, Adam Schiff said he personally saw evidence that Trump was personally a Russian asset. He personally saw that evidence. He had access to the exact same documents that Nunes had. Nunes released his memo correctly showing the corruption of the FBI. Schiff said it was all lies. Nunes then, under a Republican-controlled House, had an investigation, an ethics investigation into him. Where's Schiff's ethics investigation? He didn't take... It's not that he was punished for lying to the American people. If you were a journalist, if you were a credible journalist, let's say you're Jake Tapper, and you have Adam Schiff on for 3 years saying, I've personally seen the evidence that Trump's a Russian asset. And let's say you're Jake Tapper, except you're a different dimension, Jake Tapper, so you're actually concerned about being a journalist. Wouldn't you be infuriated that the guest you brought on to speak to your audience day after day after day lied? But instead you say, hey, we're going to give that guest more airtime. Yay! Hey, everyone. Hey, Kaseke, thanks for being here, man. Yeah, sorry if I missed anyone in the chat. Thank you all for being here. You're the best audience in the world. Watching the best channel in the world. The best show in the world. I flipped a coin, just like the Iowa caucus. Watch. Just to make sure. I better try it again. Maybe we'll do this once a show. All right. Heads, I'm the best independent content creator on the web. Tails, it's one of the other millions of people. You ready? Oh, it's heads! It's heads, just like the Iowa caucus. I win again. That's like, what, 7 coin flips proving best independent content creator on the web. So thank you, everyone. The best audience for the best content creator. Heads again. We'll do it once a show. You never know. Maybe sometime the coin will come up different. You have to flip it multiple times to make sure everything's on the up and up. Just like the Buttigieg supporter at the Iowa caucus, you know. Thank you, Series 5. I'm sure my channel will grow. Big things do have small beginnings. I used to be thin. Look where I'm at now. So, yeah. So, yeah, one other thing worth talking about before I get to acquittal. I'm burying the lead here. Hank Johnson, you know, the great Democrat that once thought that if we had too many military bases on one side of Guam, the island would tip over. That genius made the claim in the Christopher Wray hearing today that, well, what the FBI did to Trump wasn't that big of a deal. And actually, in any law enforcement investigation, those sorts of mistakes occur. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but I've kind of lost my voice a little because I'm still fighting this cold. All right, I'll scroll up and read your question, Mark. But normally when I talk about this FBI stuff, I get a little heated and might want to yell a little. So I'm not going to do that tonight. But tune in. I'll be screaming soon, if that's something you like. Mark, I don't see your question. I'm scrolling way up. You said scroll up and read my question again? Ugh. All right, let me... Give me a second. The plane that was flying at 4,500 feet leaving Iran, was John Kerry one of the passengers? He was in Iran the same week Soleimani was taken out. I have no clue. I don't know anything about that. I didn't hear about that. But it's certainly a possibility. I mean, remember, the entire start of the smearing of Trump involving Russia, well, not the start, but one of the first things that the press pushed really big was that General Flynn supposedly violated the Logan Act. What was Flynn's big crime? Well, he actually, after the sanctions were put on Russia by the Obama administration, he reached out to his counterpart in Russia and said, hey, don't freak out or do anything. We want you to deal with the Trump administration when he gets in there. That sounds like a positive. That sounds like something every administration does. He was the incoming national security advisor, so why wouldn't he do that? But the Democrats all said that was a violation of the Logan Act. Meanwhile, John Kerry, as a private citizen, has been in Iran for years, instructing them to go against the wishes of Donald Trump and his executive branch. But no one talks of that being a Logan Act violation. For those of you who don't know, Logan Act violation, the Logan Act says it's rarely used, but basically was passed a long time ago to say that American citizens aren't allowed to go speak to enemies abroad as operatives of the American government. That's a gross oversimplification. I did look into the John Birch Society, and it does seem like something that I'm very interested in. Anyways, so yeah, Johnson said, saying that the FBI, law enforcement does this all the time. Again, the Republicans are so bad. Look at where we're at with this impeachment. Today, the discussion is all about celebrating acquittal of impeachment. And it is a day to celebrate, that's fine. But it basically means nothing. The impeachment attempts will begin tomorrow anew from the Democrats. They never end. Just like when Mueller was going to bring Trump down, and then as soon as that was a dud, literally the next day, they just went on to the next thing. Remember, it was the New York Times actually had a meeting that was leaked that said, okay, now it's all about Trump being a racist. Whoop, then the Ukraine thing fell in their lap. All right, we'll switch to that. So it'll just, the next thing will come tomorrow. No big, we know it. We know that's what's going to happen. Hopefully people are wising up more by more. Not people like me and you, but the people that, regular, normal Americans that aren't watching the news every night. Hopefully they're wising up to like, how many times are the Democrats going to cry wolf? Yeah, you're right, Mark. I haven't seen Kerry for a while. But the FBI, we're talking about acquittal and about whether or not Trump had this phone call. On the level, and I mean this, if this was Bill Clinton that had that phone call with someone in a different country, if it was Obama, if it was George Bush, I would say the same thing. Even if it's something you're concerned about. Like, I say this to all my friends on the left. All my friends on the left called Bush, said Bush lied, people died, he committed war crimes. Somehow the Democrats didn't vote to impeach for abuse of power on Bush, though, did they? Do you really believe if you're someone on the left that's like against all these foreign regime change wars, which I'm on the right and I'm against them, do you really think it's more of an abuse of power for Trump to talk to Zelensky than, say, Obama to overthrow Libya? Or to drone and kill an American citizen? Or to drop all the bombs he did on Yemen, etc., etc.? Heck, at least if they said we're going to impeach Trump for abuse of power because we thought his bombing in Syria, I would say, look, I agree that bombing was terrible. I don't know if it's grounds for impeachment. But every president does that type of thing, and it disgusts me. At least then you could take the accusation of abuse of power seriously. But that's what the impeachment was over. Abuse of power for a phone call? The FBI under Barack Obama broke the law. They spied on Donald Trump as a presidential candidate and as a president. They took unverified opposition research that was sourced from Kremlin agents that we now know was disinformation to do it. Undisputed, been proven by multiple investigations. They broke protocol over 17 times. They literally changed evidence to say the opposite of what it said. They found out from the actual source of Christopher Steele that the entire Steele dossier was garbage and still reapplied for a FISA warrant 3 times after that. lying to the federal judge and keeping from him the information. They said, yes, we talked to the subsource, and the subsource was very honest, but they left out, what the subsource was honest about was that the entire dossier is a lie. They left that part out. People still, they tried to compare the impeachment of Trump to Nixon. That's still the standard for corruption. What did Nixon do? He had a couple of bumbling fools go through a hotel looking for dirt in his opponent. Obama used the FBI. Where are the Republicans every day talking about this corruption? It's like, it was outed, that's good enough. Now when Christopher Wray's being interviewed, Hank Johnson gets away with saying, not that big of a deal. Changing evidence to say the opposite of what it is, that's not a mistake. Interviewing the subsource that says, hey, FBI, your entire case is bogus. And reporting, that guy knows he told the truth. But not saying, what he told the truth, was our case is a complete lie. That's not a mistake. James Comey leaking classified information and being criminally referred by the IG, that wasn't a mistake. Peter Strzok developing an insurance policy saying he could smell Trump supporters, that wasn't a mistake. The same FBI people, for the first time in law enforcement history, deciding we'll give everyone immunity, smash all the evidence, and then ask the people connected to Hillary, hey, do you have anything you want to say about alleged crimes? That wasn't a mistake. And we're talking about a phone call with Zelensky? Unbelievable. So, let's get to the acquittal. It's not surprising. I didn't give a number. I wasn't like, it's going to be 53, 47. I didn't do that. But I knew. Because I'm a genius, right? Or maybe the Russians told me. No, I knew because we all knew. It was obvious. They weren't going to get 2/3. They might get the odd Republican. They're not going to get 2/3. But they got Romney, right? On the abuse of power. Not on obstruction of Congress, though. So, let me rehash here what the two charges were. So, I want to start with the second. The second charge is obstruction of Congress. This was voted against, so voted acquittal 53-47. Obstruction of Congress, and I'll try to steelman the argument as much as possible. In other words, I'll try to give the argument a fair shake. It goes something like this. The crimes that Trump were accused of were very serious, and therefore by him refusing to cooperate by sending evidence in the form of transcripts, emails, other evidence, or allowing witnesses to testify by claiming things like executive privilege, he was trying to bury these very serious crimes and was stopping the House of Representatives from doing their job in investigating whether or not there was an abuse of power. That's the case that was made. Obviously, it was more wordy than that. Excuse me. But, Modus. Peter Strzok said he could smell Trump supporters in Walmart. That was one of his texts. Absolutely. Now, back to the obstruction of Congress. So that's the case. The problem with this is, anytime a president then would use executive privilege, they would be guilty and of the same thing and thus should be impeached. So let's go back and look at Barack Obama. Fast and Furious. Now, unlike with the Zelensky thing, who was harmed in Trump's phone call with Zelensky? Let's assume that there was a quid pro quo and Trump was trying to get dirt in his opponent. Well, the quid pro quo failed. The aid got sent to the Ukraine. They never did the investigation into Biden. They never announced it. No one was killed. No one was harmed. So even if you think it was a problem, let's be honest, that's what happened. Fast and Furious, our law enforcement people were killed by guns that the Obama administration sent intentionally to cartels and then through either corruption or incompetence lost track of those guns. Innocent people murdered with those weapons. Law enforcement, women, children, who knows how many people. They lost track of the guns, so we have no idea. The consequences there, the stakes were way higher. Now we know dead to rights that the Obama administration screwed up. We know that there was conversations between the Attorney General at the time, Eric Holder, and Barack Obama regarding Fast and Furious. But Obama claimed executive privilege. And what did the Republicans do? They took it to the courts. So when the stakes were higher and the abuse of executive privilege more blatant, the Democrats had no problem with that use of executive privilege. Wasn't that the exact same situation? Trying to investigate possible corruption of the executive branch, and then the leader of the executive branch saying, no, I won't give you evidence. Stopping Congress's investigation. But the Democrats and the media, no problem. But it's beyond just that, because what this speaks to is something that the Founding Fathers were looking specifically at. They understood that we basically needed 3 co-equal branches of government. Otherwise, if you end up with one branch too strong, the entire system falls apart. Now, traditionally, I think the executive branch has had way too much power. We don't declare war anymore. The executive branch just drops bombs when they feel like. That's terrible. But what Congress is suggesting, now that it's a House ran by the Democrats, they're suggesting that they have oversight over the executive branch, okay? And that the executive branch is beneath the legislative branch. So anything the legislative branch says to the executive branch, they have to listen to. Legislative branch says turn over these communications, the executive branch is forced to, no matter what. That's clearly not the way things are supposed to work. If that's the way things work, then the judicial branch is irrelevant and the legislative branch is superior to the executive branch, so we might as well not even have an executive branch. Because in the future, any time that the legislative branch is ran by a different party than the executive branch, they literally could just say, we demand access to all of your information, we're going to charge you with any crime we feel like, and there's not a damn thing you could do about it. And you would say, this is ridiculous, we're going to go to the courts. Nope. The fact that you want to go to the courts proves you've committed a crime of obstructing Congress. That is asinine. That's what they're suggesting, though. Now, executive authorities in the executive branch, not just presidents, but all of the agencies under them, whether it be the IRS, the EPA, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, all of those agencies, they fall under the executive branch, the State Department. In other words, the president is the boss of those branches. Those officials aren't elected. They're appointed, right? These agencies all the time go to the courts for information. Look at the FBI, for example. It's like, watch Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch, who's an awesome, awesome person. You should follow Tom Fitton on Twitter. He's doing great work, trying to get access to all these documents through Freedom of Information Act requests that show the corruption in the deep state. It's like pulling teeth. The FBI goes to the courts constantly to get even any oversight. Heck, our Congress, when the Republicans were running the House, when they were trying to get information on the FBI, were constantly stalled by Rosenstein. They're still being stalled by Christopher Wray, and they have legitimate oversight over the FBI. It's written into the law. But they have to go to the courts for everything. How isn't that obstruction of Congress by the FBI constantly then? See, when there's actual obstruction of Congress, when the FBI refuses to comply with congressional oversight, even when courts order them to, the Democrats have no problem. And this is the problem. It sounds confusing. Like if you're listening, you might be like, well, wait a minute. And it is confusing. And I'm not saying come to me because I'm smarter than you. I'm saying the reason I know about this stuff is, I'm someone who likes debate and interested in the process, but I also just happen to watch a lot of it. You're at home working a 9 to 5. You're taking care of kids. You don't have time to sift through all this crap. So don't think I'm being arrogant when I'm talking about this. But it sounds very confusing, right? Here's been my take from the get-go. And this is a take whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Conservative, Liberal. If you want to be a decent person, this is something that you should believe in. It's an extension of the golden rule. No double standards, no hypocrisy. Just treat everyone the same. So we might disagree on things, but as long as the treatment is equal, even if we disagree, that's okay. I've told this story a bunch of times. Go back to the beginnings of the Russia collusion stuff. Oh, we need a special counsel. Oh, we need an investigation into Trump and his associates. Person after person that said that, I said, why? What is it specifically that warrants an investigation? And do you know how many of them said, oh, shady connections to Russians? Okay, that's the threshold then. Shady connections to Russians mean that we investigate. Yep. Okay, so I could prove that the Democrats also had shady connections to Russians. In many cases, the exact same ones, like the oligarch Deripaska. Oh, no, that's different. Or how about this? Look, getting dirt on your opponent from a foreign country is a crime and it's impeachable. Always a crime. Okay, well, we know the Democrats did exactly that. Oh, no, that was okay. Their getting dirt was okay. Now, I am from the stance, I don't think Hillary Clinton or the DNC should be charged with a crime for paying Christopher Steele to get dirt on Trump from Russians. I don't. I think that it's shady, but that's politics. I also don't think it's a problem if Trump and Don Jr. tried to get dirt on Hillary from Russians. I don't think it's a crime. So I am consistent. If you disagree with me and you say, I think what Trump Jr. did was a crime, but I also think what Hillary and the DNC did was a crime, okay. We disagree, but at least you're an ethical person. At least you don't have a double standard. My argument the entire time that I've been doing this channel, the entire time that Trump and people around him have been accused of committing crimes was this. If Trump or people around him committed crimes, so be it, charge them. I am not someone who's going to overlook crimes just because my side did it. But whatever crimes that you charge them with, there shouldn't be a double standard. Equally charge those across the board. And every single time we see it's the opposite. Every time they charge or accuse Trump or someone connected to him of a crime, I could point to you an intel agency person or a DNC person committing that crime more severely or more blatantly. Failing to register as a foreign lobbyist, lying to Congress, lying to the FBI, obstruction of justice. I mean, they're saying Trump obstructed justice because he went to court and said, I want to use executive privilege. So he took it to the courts. That's obstruction of justice. But Hillary deleting subpoenaed emails is not obstruction of justice. So think of how insane this is. If Trump would have just said, you know what, all that evidence you want, House Democrats, I burned it. The Democrats would have said, oh, okay, fair enough. That's not a crime. But if he goes to the courts and says, do I have to hand this over? All of a sudden, that's a crime worth removal from office. Hillary Clinton deleting subpoenaed evidence was perfectly fine. Now, if Hillary Clinton would have went to the courts and said, hey, do I have to hand these emails over? Oh, that's obstruction all of a sudden. Do you really believe that's what the Democrats would have said? Stop picking on my curtains. I'm trying to fix it next week. I'll try my best. Right, Alan Spence. That's exactly what I'm saying. Tons of crimes. Tons of crimes from the Democrats. They accuse Trump and the Republicans and conservatives of the exact same things that they do. They're projecting on you. By the way, that's the way. Watch their coverage, the media coverage of the Iowa caucus now. You know how they call you racist for everything? How many times do I have to hear, well, Iowa's predominantly white. White people don't care. Oh, white this, white that. See, they're projecting it. They think because they view things in racial terms constantly that you must feel the same way. It's all projection. So, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but the point is this. It sounds complicated. But ask yourself this. If something is done tens of thousands of times in Washington, and the only time anyone cares or anyone investigates is when this one particular group does it. So 9,999 times, it's okay for something to occur. But then this one time this person does it. Now all of a sudden it's a big deal and it's a crime. And they need to be impeached or investigated. That should raise your eyebrows. You might say, I don't like what Trump did. Maybe that's your take. But ask yourself, if his alleged quid pro quo was bad, why was Obama's okay? If Trump using executive privilege is bad, why was it okay for Obama and for Bush? If Trump going to the courts to see what kind of information he has to turn over is bad, why is it okay for literally that to happen tens of thousands of times in the past decade from executive agencies? That's how you simplify this situation. When they say, yes, we all do it, and it's okay when we do it, but when Trump does it, it's a crime, you know they're full of it. It's that simple. This obstruction of justice case was so bad and so stupid, Even Mitt Romney couldn't bring himself to vote for it, which is saying something. So remember, the 47 Democrats that voted for that. The next time there's a Democrat president, hopefully never, but it'll happen. If they try to take any issue to the court, that's obstruction of Congress. The problem is the Democrats have no problem blatantly being hypocritical right to your face at all. They'll tell you meat is murder and you're immoral while they're eating a hamburger. They don't give a shit. They don't care at all. Oops, sorry for swearing. So they don't care. You'll be like, wait a minute, didn't you just, with Trump, say that you couldn't take things to the court? Yeah, we don't care. What do we care? By any means necessary is what they believe. So that's, predictably, that charge failed. So the other charge, the one Romney did vote for, bringing it 52 to acquit, 52 to acquit, 48 to remove, was abuse of power. Now, the first thing you'll realize about obstruction of Congress and abuse of power, notice how those aren't real crimes, right? Wasn't embezzlement or murder or fraud. Like, it wasn't crimes that you could actually see on the books. It's made up terms. Because they couldn't prove any real crime, so they just had to say, basically it amounts to Trump's a bad guy and we don't like him. That's what the crime was. So abuse of power. I already said before, when you think abuse of power, take Trump or Republicans or Democrats out of it. Think of the things that you think would be the most maximum abuse of power that you could have. A president lying to get us into a war. A president using the investigative and the intelligence agencies to spy or to arrest or charge his opponents with crimes. A president using the office lying to get incredibly wealthy, right? All of these stuff are way, way pages higher than a president called a foreign leader and asked if they'd cooperate in an investigation. I don't care if you're the staunchest Democrat Trump hater. Really? You think of all the past things that presidents have done? And by the way, if you're a Trump-hating Democrat, you probably hated Bush. You probably hated Reagan. You think what Trump did was somehow worse than Bush and Reagan or anything they could have done? Lying to get in the Iraq war? Thousands of people dying? No problem. Bailing out bankers? No problem. All of the corruption that goes on in Washington. And the one time that you talk about abuse of power is a phone call? It's unbelievable. Now, there's other things to say about this that people forget. Number one, remember, Nancy Pelosi voted for an impeachment inquiry before she even saw the transcript of the Trump-Zelensky phone call. Schiff and Pelosi said that week, and I said, remember this. This is something that I will be talking about when impeachment ends. So here I am, fulfilling my promise. Both Schiff and Pelosi said, and I quote, a quid pro quo is not necessary in order for this to be impeachable. In other words, the charge of abuse of power could occur without the quid pro quo. They didn't have to prove the quid pro quo. They said the mere act of asking a foreign leader for dirt on your opponent or to cooperate in an investigation on your opponent is abuse of power. Now, we know that's exactly what the Obama administration did. They're working with all of our Five Eyes allies to get dirt on Donald Trump. We know that that's a letter that 3 Democratic senators wrote to the Ukraine, asking them to give dirt to Mueller on Donald Trump and associates. So again, it was perfectly fine for the Democrats and the establishment to go around the world, talking to all of our allies, talking to any foreign person, leaving no stone unturned to investigate Trump and everyone connected to him. Perfectly fine. For 3 years, nonstop, the investigation still continued to this day. But Trump asked one time, wait a minute, what about the corruption of the past administration? And all of a sudden, that's abuse of power. Not to mention, all of this talk of Russia, the Ukraine, I say this over and over again. Every foreign government in the world combined, North Korea, China, Russia, Ukraine, South Korea, Germany, France, the UK, Australia, whatever, lump them all together. None of them can influence our elections more than our own corrupt intel agencies. Ukraine can't force the FBI to wiretap people in a presidential campaign. But the FBI could do that if they're corrupt and they're being misused, how isn't that exponentially worse than talking to Ukraine? Yet, no calls from the Democrats. They downplay that. Oh, the FBI abuse, no big deal. I'm not going to rehash everything I've said about the abuse of power thing in that I'll say this real quick. Anytime that an executive branch person uses your tax dollars to force the firing of a prosecutor that's looking into someone in their family's company, there should be an investigation. Period. If you guys want, I'll do a live stream I'll go for hours on exactly the corruption of Biden, Joe and Hunter, and Obama, and their quid pro quo, and how they lied about Victor Shokin, the prosecutor that they forced to be fired, and how it was set up from the get-go to allow Burisma off the hook, and therefore Hunter Biden off the hook. That's what it was. The quid pro quo that we know the Democrats did was in order to cover up their crimes and the crimes of Joe and Hunter Biden. That's exactly what it was. But I've talked about that ad nauseum. So all I'll say is there was no case to impeach Trump. I mean, if you're watching this and you're like, I didn't follow it that closely, let me boil it down. We know that Biden and Obama issued a quid pro quo. We know that they used your tax dollars to force the firing of a prosecutor who happened to be looking into the company that Joe Biden's son Hunter was on the board of directors of. We know that. It's not disputed. That should be investigated. If there's a reason for Trump to investigate that, there's no case for impeachment. Period. And you know that's true because the Democrats had no problem with Obama and don't leave them get away with this. The buck stops with Obama. He's the head of the executive branch. He's the head of the FBI. He's the head of the CIA. When his FBI and CIA was going around the world asking for people in foreign countries to cooperate in getting dirt against Trump, not one Democrat, not even one Republican, not one media member suggested impeaching Obama or retroactively impeaching him, which, by the way, you can do. Bebop, you have no friends. Well, I used to have friends, but now I'm married, so. Yeah, I'll try to get a list together. American Joe does something really cool where he kind of works with people to get his name out there. But I appreciate the help. I really do. In PA as well. Awesome. David Woodruff, I'm reading you here. You're glad to see him running for office, but that's a big but. Big but. Let's see, I got a text here. Oh, nothing important. So that's the issue there. We know that the other thing that Trump wanted to investigate was Ukrainian election interference. We have public officials at the head of Ukraine's anti-corruption investigative agency, basically their FBI, and a high-ranking parliamentarian admitting they interfered in the election to help Hillary. The entire media says, oh, it's all been debunked. It hasn't been debunked. Donald Trump was right to want to have these investigations. There is literally no case to impeach, and everybody knows it. And if they don't know it, it's disgraceful. My big take on the wrap of impeachment is this. The Republicans in the House, although many of them are admirable, did a terrible job defending Trump because they spent all their time arguing it's not a quid pro quo instead of arguing, yes, there was corruption, possible corruption with the Obama-Biden quid pro quo that needs to be investigated. And yes, there was Ukrainian election interference that needs to be investigated. That's the case the Republicans should have made in the House. Thank goodness Trump's defense team made those arguments in the Senate. The Republicans, particularly in the Senate, should immediately go after investigating Joe and Hunter Biden and Ukrainian election interference in 2016. Foreign aid should be cut off completely to the Ukraine until we're assured that all of the people responsible for interfering in the 2016 election are held accountable. Those should be the next steps. The other thing that happened that was kind of a pleasant surprise. Oh, thank you, David. I'm no Rush Limbaugh. I'm not. We wouldn't agree on everything, by the way, me and Rush, but he is a huge inspiration to me. I think that I model myself after him in that me and a microphone talking. And I think I have a good flow. So thank you. That's a great compliment. Yeah, Ump's in here. Thank you, man. Umpire Post. Really appreciate it. But yeah, so just to finish up, the Romney thing, it's worth talking about this. I've been saying, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. And you can check out my short video I did that's on my channel as well about my thoughts on this. But just to rehash it, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you I said, oh, Romney's going to vote for impeachment. I didn't say that. And I'm kind of a little surprised he did. But what I did tell you was proven by what Romney did. And this, if you take one thing from this show tonight, please take this. Too often we set up this false left-right paradigm. I'm not saying there's not a lot of that real fighting that goes on. I don't like a lot of the progressive ideas. I don't like socialism, right? That's more left-wing stuff. I get it. But the real fight is the establishment versus the rest of us. And so two things happen when we just think it's left-right. One, there are potential allies in fighting that corruption on the left that we shun. And you should never shun allies when it comes to the big fight. We have to triage our priorities. Ending the corruption in our government is the number one priority. So if that means I'm working with a Bernie fan that's now convinced, hey, you know what, this corruption's bad, good, I'll do that. We can have our discussion about socialism later. If you don't think shunning potential allies is a big deal, ask Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter basically started with the message, I know people had their own agenda, but there is a core message of, hey, sometimes there's corruption in law enforcement and sometimes it gets swept under the rug. Now, I don't think that it's racist cops and all this crap that they spew that's just garbage, but that core message, who wouldn't get behind that message? A lot of people would be like, yeah, sure. If you could prove corruption in law enforcement, yeah, that's a big deal. We should look at that. But then they're like, shut up, you're white. Shut up, it's all about race. And now they're outed for the basic pseudo-terrorist organization that they are. Because they've shunned all allies. So we shouldn't make that mistake. But almost as important is, when you just think it's a left-right thing, what ends up happening is you don't see the people on, quote, your side that are part of the corruption. And that's the thing that I want you to take from this show tonight. I said this for weeks now. I said, look, Collins, Murkowski, Alexander, Toomey, who's my senator, who I might, instead of running for Congress, I might run for Senate and primary Pat Toomey after this garbage. There are people in the Senate that are blatantly anti-Trump, the Republicans. Your Jeff Flakes, your John McCain's. Romney is now one of those, obviously. But there are so many more that are anti-Trump and pro-establishment that aren't as vocal about it. They hide it. And that's because it's not left versus right. It's establishment versus all of us. So constantly you'll hear this, right? The establishment, they're media goons, they're propagandists. The establishment goons in academia and the entertainment industry in Silicon Valley, they make this argument all the time. Oh, even some Republicans are disgusted by Trump's behavior. But that's because they're feeding you this false Republican versus Democrat garbage. The argument is establishment versus non-establishment. See, here's the dirty little secret. You think that Mitt Romney and Hillary Clinton are opponents? Far from it. When it comes to the big issues that mean them consolidating power and wealth, they agree on everything. Bailing out bankers, foreign regime change wars, never getting to the bottom of any corruption or regress that occurs in Congress. They all agree on that stuff. Sure, they'll disagree on LGBT rights or abortion, whatever. That doesn't affect them personally. All they care about is maintaining power and keeping everyone who's a potential outsider out of that power. Here's a little story that kind of goes along with this. I believe it was the League of Women Voters, something like that. Up until the 80s, they held all of the presidential debates, and they were nonpartisan. They got out in the 80s because they were furious that third parties were not allowed in, because despite the apparent anger that Republicans and Democrats have against each other, the one thing they could agree on is, well, don't leave anyone else in. And so the League of Women Voters was like, nope, we're out. We're not going to be part of this partisan garbage. That's still what's going on. Now, it's not every Republican. It's not even every Democrat. But almost every Democrat at the national level. All 47 in the Senate, they all voted for this impeachment, so they're all part of it. Even Andrew Yang, I'm ashamed to say, who's someone that I've said, hey, I wouldn't vote for him, but at least he seems to have integrity. Yang came out and celebrated Romney today. Pathetic. Mitt Romney and John McCain and Jeff Flake and Murkowski and Collins and many, many more wanted Hillary Clinton to beat Trump. See, the only reason they didn't cheat Trump out of the primary like they did Bernie and the DNC side was that the RNC, the people that are running it, basically had an agreement. Well, we'll just leave Hillary win. That's what McCain and Flake and Romney, that's what they all thought. Hillary will trounce them. I've said it over and over again, only through their hubris, because they were so convinced through their corruption that they had the election wrapped up and Hillary would win. That's the only reason Trump had a chance to win. That's how corrupt they are. The only time they slip up is when they're overconfident. So this woman, Hillary Clinton, that Romney and McCain and Flake have been telling us the worst possible candidate, they all support her over Trump, who's supposedly in their own party. I wonder why that is. Well, it's because they don't care about the party. They care about the establishment. And by the way, when I run for Congress and I talk for stuff like this, do you think the Republicans like that? No. Many of them are furious with me. I don't care. It's the truth. No, it's not true. Then explain Mitt Romney's vote today. You don't think for a minute that if somehow the media convinced enough, you don't think that the Republicans in the Senate, these rhinos, these establishment, weren't looking at their polling and constantly having feelers out there saying, hey, is there enough support in my home district to vote to remove Trump? As soon as there was enough support to remove Trump, they would have jumped at it. They'd have been on their high horse. Trump is immoral. Oh, what he did was he ruined. They wanted it so bad. But they have to keep their jobs. And they knew that in their home districts, the people that voted for them were so against removing Trump. 96% now approval for Trump with Republican voters, if you trust the polls. So they couldn't do it. They desperately wanted it. They kept giving you clues. Well, I'm troubled by what Trump did. Maybe we need witnesses. I don't know. I'm still making up my mind. Now, if me, just some fat guy in a chair, could figure out how corrupt this impeachment scam was, Murkowski couldn't, Susan Collins couldn't, Mitt Romney couldn't, Alexander couldn't, Toomey couldn't. They didn't have access to the information I have access to. Ridiculous. So the only surprise I had with Romney's vote was he apparently weighed out, hey, it's worth infuriating all of my constituents to be #the resistance. And I'm sure he was in close communications with Pelosi and with Schiff or others in the Democrats, Schumer. And the Democrats were like, look, Romney, here's the deal. We're all establishment bros here. We want you to bite the bullet here. We'll treat you as a hero. But what we really need is some kind of victory. We need some talking point today. We just botched the Iowa caucus. The State of the Union, we botched it, and how we look like fools with Pelosi tearing things up and Trump giving a great State of the Union. We need a small victory here to change the news cycle. So could you please vote at least on one article to remove, so that then throughout history we could say bipartisan removal suggested. That's what happened. And so finally, right, thank you, Kaseke, obnoxiously long-winded fat kind of chair with a good point of view. And for a large man, unduly handsome, if I do say so myself. But so this, I'm being long-winded, I am. But here's the part I want to get to, and then I'll take some phone calls. Don't be satisfied and say, well, we got to remove Mitt Romney. No, that's not enough. If we're just talking, there's tons of things you could do beyond voting. But if we're purely talking about voting, you don't just have to remove Romney. Of course you do. You have to remove Collins, Murkowski, Toomey, Alexander, everyone who even potentially gave any lip service to this coup. Anyone in the House that isn't doing enough to fight back against this coup. It's not enough just to vote against it and then go back to talking about what your pet issue is. Our country is under attack. If your representative is busy fighting for his pet infrastructure project, instead of going out there on every news outlet, in every coffee shop in their district, all around the country, anywhere they can have a voice, talking about this corruption, then they're not doing enough. I'm sick and tired. Why did I run for Congress in the first place? This is why I ran in the special election. I gave a speech at the convention. I got a standing ovation. Here was my speech. I got 5 minutes to speak, right? I'll give you the cliff notes. I said, my name's Robert Noor. The reason I ran for Congress is this. I had the good fortune to go to university, and I was one of the better debaters in the country, and I speak very well. But the people that mean the most to me in life are the people that have lived with my entire life, my family and friends in rural Pennsylvania. Blue-collar workers all around the country that get ignored. They don't have television programming, entertainment. They don't have anyone representing them in the public narrative, the media, anyone, academia. And so I thought I could be a voice for the people that I think are great Americans that don't have a voice. That's why I'm running. And I'm just here today to tell you this. We are not stupid. We are tired of electing people that say that they have our interest at heart. And then they go to Washington and forget where they came from. We're tired of it. We matter. We make this country run. The world and the wealthy in this country have gotten incredibly wealthy off of our backs, off of our labor. Yet instead of whining and complaining and being a victim, all we want is to be left alone. All we want is for a government that doesn't treat us with contempt and at least tries to represent our interest. That was it. It was longer than that. But I got a standing ovation. I was the only person that got an ovation. But the problem is, these people then win, they go on, they didn't vote for me, they voted for someone else. What's that person doing? What's my representative doing? Everyone pays lip service. Yes, we need to stand up for the country, for the average people, for normal Americans. That's the name of my show. But then what happens? And then we just vote these same people in again. So get them out. Run for office yourself. Tell your family and friends. Start a YouTube channel. Don't just get rid of Romney. It's not enough to say, oh, well, Murkowski ended up voting against removal. Garbage. You really want to be relying on her? Say Trump wins in 2020. When the Democrats have their 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th impeachment. You really want to be biting your fingernails going, ooh, I hope Murkowski decides not to screw over Trump? Or do you want someone who's going to fight for the country and against this corruption? I don't care what party they are. Good stuff, Kaseke. All right. 12:02, 2 minutes over. So, I'm bad at reading the chat, right? I know. Right. Umpire posts, the powers that agree on maintaining, continuing, even increasing the power control don't care about Republicans, Democrats. Exactly. They only care about perpetually maintaining their power and consolidating more. Exactly. And they're never going to, why does no one, all the corruption, like for example, I promised to get to calls. Take this one issue, right? What do you think if there was a fair polling process? Just ask yourself this. Thank you, Pam. What do you think the popularity is of the slush fund that Congress people use to pay off sexual assault accuser? I'm guessing that 95% of Americans, Republican or Democrat or anywhere in between or outside of that, would say, yeah, that's terrible. Now, I believe in innocent until proven guilty. I'm not saying everyone who used that slush fund committed sexual assault, but why is our tax dollars going to pay for these accusations to fight them? No one can make a compelling argument why that should be the case. No one. Despite this, why did it occur? Why are the names not being released of who used it? If it was a bunch of Democrats that used it, don't you think Republicans would jump on that? Or vice versa? You know why? Because both of them had their fingers in that pie. You're not going to out the other side's corruption when you're corrupt as well. So the corrupt establishment that has corrupt Republicans, corrupt Democrats, they're not going to be opposed to each other. They need to, one, ensure they get more wealth and power, but second, ensure no one outside comes in to show their corruption. They know if Hillary Clinton won, there ain't a chance in hell that corruption of the Republicans or the Democrats is going to be released, because Hillary Clinton's one of the most corrupt politicians of all time. So that's good if you're corrupt. It doesn't matter what her beliefs are and policies. But Donald Trump was a potential outsider. So the knives come out. It's not left right. All right. Straight Cis Male says, don't yell at me, you effer. Are you talking to me or was it someone in the chat? I'll yell at who I please. By the way, I'm not really yelling. Believe it or not, my voice is always loud. Okay. I'm going to put the phone number up here. So here's the deal with phone calls. I'm going to try to, like, you can say what you want. As my channel grows, please don't get upset if I cut people off or ask you to just make your point in like a minute, because if more people want to call in. But for tonight, there's only 36 watching, so I should be able to have people on the line more. If I cut you off, I assure you, even if you disagreed with me, please don't take it personally. It's nothing like that. I think I'll do a good job with it. If I don't get to your call, I apologize. I don't have anyone to help me yet, so it's just, and I don't have call waiting, so it's whoever calls in, calls in. So if no one calls in, I'll just keep ranting as well. That's fine, but there's the number. And so, yeah, we'll do call-ins. Any topic is cool with me. If you have a if you disagree with me on something, even better. Makes for a better show. So, and if you're out there, I truly mean this. I know my regular viewers know this. I really, really appreciate people that disagree with me. I'm not an echo chamber. If you're someone who hates Trump, you're welcome on this channel. I've asked my mods that do a great job. If people are just saying, I disagree with you, I think Trump sucks, please don't, censor them for that. Now, if they're spamming or, being belligerent or something, that's one thing, but you get it. But I encourage exchange of ideas. All right, we got the first call. My regular viewers know this.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hey, how's it going? Who's calling?
This is Fred Fingers.
What's happening? Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, good show, man. You're very enthusiastic. I really like your style.
Thank you. I try. So what's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, I think, you're not going deep enough on this, because if you remember, Trump had an executive order back in March of 2017, which has put the fear of God into everybody, all his enemies, and he's got them all scared shitless, and they're all crippled because all their funds have been blocked. That was an executive order blocking corruption, all funds for corruption, and anybody who has been involved in human trafficking.
Right.
And that's a lot of these big people, and it's the whole reason why they're so desperate. They're out of money.
Yeah.
They're done with. They're gone.
I think that you're right. That is something that's worth talking about. On a more superficial level than that, the reason that impeachment was triggered over this Ukraine phone call was that the Democrats and the establishment are desperate to stop Trump from investigating their corruption. And that executive order goes a long way into that. Now, let's just you know what I mean? So, just take Epstein, for example. And this is one of the things that troubles me, because Barr coming out saying, yeah, Epstein killed himself. Now, who knows? Maybe Barr's just saying that, playing the long game, because he doesn't want them to know. I don't know. We'll see. But it's obvious that Epstein had connections to the elite, not just in our government, in the Republicans and Democrats, but also the UK government, people in universities, scientists, all sorts of people, Bill Gates type people. All of these people are connected to that, and that's clearly an example of human trafficking, the most heinous types of human trafficking. This is
one more thing.
Sure.
One more thing that's even more important than that. If you remember, right after Trump was inaugurated, before he even took office, he met with Admiral Rogers, former director of the NSA, or actually was still current director of the NSA, and with Bill Binney, who was the major technical director of the NSA,
right,
who wrote the programs that were used illegally by Obama and company to actually spy on anybody they wanted to spy on.
Right.
Well, Trump got that. He got the algorithm. He got it. He's got it. That's why all the never Trumpers, all of a sudden, we're not never Trumpers.
Right.
Remember all those Republican senators that, including his big buddy big buddy leaders in the Senate were totally against him. All of a sudden, they're kissing us behind. You know why? Because all the information that was gotten on them, all that dirt, and all the dirt on all the judges in the Supreme Court, all that stuff, Trump has in his back pocket. And if you were following Q at all, Q implies all of this in his posts. Q is not just is a lot more than what you think he is.
Yeah, I know. If you caught me the other night talking about Q, which I could talk about that for a minute. So thank you for calling. I'll let you go, but I am going to riff on that. I think you had some great points there. So thanks so much for calling in. Yeah, so let's talk about Bill Binney and Admiral Rogers. Bill Binney has said over and over again that the NSA has all of this information. Admiral Rogers was the head of the information. Binney's one of the guys that helped write the programs for the NSA. So he's a whistleblower, a real whistleblower. He came out, for example, and said that the spying on Carter Page, there's something called a 2-hop rule, and that is they not only get to spy on the person they get the FISA warrant on, who would be Carter Page, and everyone that he talks to, but then they then get to spy on everyone that they talk to, who they talk to. So let's say Carter Page, they could spy on him. Carter Page talks to Manafort. So they could spy on Carter Page and Manafort. But then Manafort talks to Trump. They could also legally spy on Trump. Bill Binney released all of that as a whistleblower years ago and came out publicly with the Carter Page stuff and said that. Admiral Rogers actually went to the FISA court as Trump was coming into the office, and told them that he saw these abuses that were occurring in the FBI and CIA, where people were misusing the FISA applications. So he went to them immediately, and Rogers has been a great patriot that's been on the side of Trump the entire time. And I think you're absolutely right that Trump has access to all this information. That's how he knew from the get-go. Remember when he was saying right out of the gate, "Oh, I've been spied on by the Obama administration"? Well, that's how he knew, because he was working with a true patriot, Admiral Rogers. So there is white hats in the intel community in places like the NSA that are fighting the black hats in the CIA, in the FBI, and places like that. As far as how this connects to people sucking up to Trump, that could be. I mean, I've raised questions of Dershowitz and his connection to Epstein. Is one of the reasons Dershowitz is such a voracious defender of Trump now because he's afraid that Trump could come after him with his connections to Epstein? I don't know. I do know that that Dershowitz's arguments have been sound and they've been correct in his defense of Trump. And so I don't blame Trump for taking someone like him who's a skilled advocate and using him to defend himself. Now, when will Trump release the information that he has? I understand that he's playing a game, right? He understands there is a game of politics, and he understands that the corruption's so big that it took time to be able to have people process this, to be able to start to out this corruption, and it's slowly occurring. But we'll see. Until people get charged, I'm still kind of pessimistic. I hope that Q's right, that eventually the hammer will come down and people will get charged. But seeing Barr decline to prosecute Comey, even after I.G. Horowitz suggested it, gives me doubt. And seeing Barr come out and say Epstein killed himself gives me doubt that these things that are interconnected, I think you're right, with the human trafficking and the corruption that goes on at the highest levels, it kind of gives me pause. So that's where I'm at in that. But I definitely think there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I think that we will see Trump start to declassify stuff. I just hope that the people around Trump, his attorney general, other people in his offices, decide to prosecute the criminals. As far as Q goes, just real quick, for those of you that missed my stance on Q, I think that Q is someone or a group of people that are connected to Trump, that are giving real information, real stuff, inside knowledge that's coming. I truly believe that. I think that they are strategic and they're trying to do it to help Trump, and that they're good guys and that they've done tons of good. Guys or women, I don't know specifically the identity. And I think one of the greatest things they've done is inspire people to do their own investigating and be able to come up and connect these dots on their own. I think that's been a tremendous success. Where I question Q is this, and I've had people tell me it's because I don't follow Q, so I'm interpreting wrong, but I've had supposed Q supporters tell me, trust the plan. Don't get upset that Barr didn't charge Comey. Don't get upset if people aren't getting prosecuted, because it's all part of this greater plan. And I hesitate to believe anything on faith like that. I deal in things that I could see improve in my life and in the real world. I talk about the facts that I interpret them as I see them, right? When I talk about impeachment, I'm giving you the exact facts. I'm not going to believe someone that says, trust me, I'm on your side, but ignore all those facts. Everything will work out. Now, I've had plenty of people tell me the other night, that's not what Q's about. Q would be about me questioning, continuing to advocate to make sure that these criminals, these conspirators against our country are charged criminally. So I think that I'm allies with Q. I'm maybe on a parallel path, but I don't follow it as much as some people do. So that's all saying that. So, but great call. Thank you. Yeah. For those of you who don't know Bill Binney, check him out. He's a real whistleblower, unlike the phony one that's against Trump that was not a whistleblower, but a rumor monger. Bill Binney actually is someone who came out and he created the systems at the NSA, so he knows what they're capable of, and he knows how they could be abused and how they could be used based on what's there to help fight this corruption. Okay, I'll put the number out again. If someone else wants to call in, feel free. But yeah, great call. Great call. Someone said it's like coast to coast. Yeah, Bill Binney. That's the name, Pam. Binney. Great guest. Or a great guy. Yeah, the number's up there if someone wants to make another call. Yeah, talking about that level of corruption. There are so many levels that you could go into deep into. I don't like to call it conspiracies, but to analyze the corruption. Like, you could go straight to the level of, like, is this Luciferian? Is this something that's been occurring with, like, an Illuminati that's been occurring for decades, centuries even? That's not my forte. I don't begrudge anyone who goes to that level, and I don't deny there could be a lot of truth in it. So I'm not even saying I disagree with that stuff. It's just what I specialize on here is trying to take information that we could see that's public or just requires some amount of cursory research and showing through common sense to average people why this shows the corruption. So it's hard. We need people on all levels of that scale, though, to be talking about this corruption. So there could be a lot of good evidence about Luciferians and things like that. But it's hard to convince, my father-in-law who's driving truck every day. Well, let me tell you about this, 2,000-year-old conspiracy. But it's easy for him to understand, dude, they're investigating Trump because Trump was investigating their corruption. Like, that's easy for him to understand. So I think that what we need is people on all sorts of levels of all sorts of stylistic choices going on in this. So I applaud people that support Q. I applaud the work that Q's doing, but I question everything, so that's just in my nature. And yeah, I think that people should approach this stylistically. I said this the other day. When I ran for Congress, I had one of the people, after I gave my speech, who's a lifelong politician, well, at least been doing it for 20, 30 years, very successful person, ask me if I could teach them how to speak like me. And I was like, no, I can't. Authenticity is one of the most important things. You have your own voice. We all have different stylistic choices. Some people choose not to be very emotional. They're very stoic, but that could be an awesome advocate for ending this corruption in that way. Some people get fired up and yell and scream. That's fine too. Some people use comedy. Some people deride their opponents and mock them and yell at them. Some people try to have debates with them. All of those styles are good. So, okay, we got another call coming in.
Call from
The Groove.
To accept, press 1. To send a voice...
All right, we got The Groove on the air. Thanks for calling the Normal America Show. What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, Rob. How are you?
Great, doing great. Having fun.
Doing good. Hey, I just discovered you, by the way, maybe about a week ago. Really enjoy the stuff you do and getting down to the nitty-gritty, if you know what I mean.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks to a bunch of other great people. I've doubled my subscriptions in the past 3 weeks, so thank you for being here. I'll try to not let you down.
Oh, no, I doubt you will, man. I mean, you seem very genuine. I just wanted to throw something out there that my wife and I discovered earlier tonight. It's a channel on YouTube, and they get a lot of views. It's a local Fox affiliate, I think in Phoenix, Arizona, Fox News Now. And they were discussing about Trump getting acquitted, and one of the two guys that were on the show looked up what Pelosi had done, shredding the transcript. And what they found is, by Pelosi shredding the transcript, it violated 18 U.S. Code 2071. and she broke the law. I just wanted to share that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I had a good friend of the show, I think it was Preacher, actually, sent me an email showing me that code. And I do think that she did break that law because, just to simplify it for people, what it is basically that official documents and records can't be destroyed in something like, right, that's basically what they said on the Fox show you heard as well.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it just shows more blatant disregard for the law and norms that come from the Democrats. Again, they accuse Trump constantly of breaking the law and being uncivilized. We see that they're just projecting what they actually do. Now, what do I think the punishment for this should be, or what will come of it? Nothing will come of it. I mean, the fact that the Obama administration could have the FBI spy on Trump in the way they did, break the law, and no one's charged for that. Clearly, they're not going to charge Pelosi with this. And, no. I do think that we should talk about, look, if it's a law in the book, it deserves at least some sort of censure. Maybe we should have impeachment investigations into Nancy Pelosi, right? She broke the law.
That's right.
So in that level, I agree. But, nothing will be done about it. But it's absolutely, it's a great piece of information. It is. I would point I'll point you to, I'll put it in the chat, but if you go to thehill.com, which has fallen off since John Solomon's left, there's an article by the excellent Jonathan Turley. Jonathan Turley is a constitutional law scholar. I used to quote him all the time when I was in debate. Fantastic and nonpartisan, as his article will show you. He has an article up on the Hill right now that I'll put on. You can check it out. It'll be on the chat. It's titled...
I will. I like... Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's great. It's titled, Nancy Pelosi Should Resign. And what he talks about is how the antics she did are so unique and so disgusting of what she did. Not just ripping the paper, but the faces she was making the whole time, just making it a show about her, that it's so disgusting she should immediately resign because it's worse than anything he's seen during his State of the Union.
Rob, I couldn't agree more, man. I really couldn't. And I agree with you. It's very likely nothing will happen, but... I didn't know if many people knew about this. I just thought I'd share it. But I agree. Nothing will probably happen, sadly.
Yeah.
But we all know they're just hypocrites, And one thing my mother taught me when I was a kid that's so true is a lot of the times you accuse somebody of something when you're doing it yourself. So there you go.
That's absolutely right. Well, hey, thanks so much for the call. Yeah, I wanted to mention that. So I'm so happy that you brought it up because it's just another example of the blatant disregard for norms and laws coming from the Democrats. So thanks for calling and have a good night.
Yes, sir. You too, Rob. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take it easy.
Bye.
Yeah, great. That's a great point. I saw that. And I think it was Preacher that sent me that article. So if you're still in here, Preacher, sorry I didn't mention that. But yeah, technically that is a violation of a U.S. code and against the law. Now, if I'm even being honest, I despise Pelosi. I think she's horrendous. Is that crime enough worth removal from office? Probably not, but it should be worth censure. And look, the problem with me and the problem with people like me is this. We have integrity. We're not hypocrites. So we oftentimes are fighting a gunfight with a knife. We say, no, don't act like those people. Don't act like the establishment. Don't act like the people running the Democratic Party. So they'll pull out any dirty trick against us or the people we support. But then we have integrity, so we say, no, don't reciprocate. For example, they have no problem trying to dox you, trying to get you fired from your job because you support Trump. But I would never do that to them, ever. They have no problem saying that you shouldn't have free speech, you shouldn't be allowed to talk on college campuses, you shouldn't be allowed to make certain types of jokes, you shouldn't be allowed to do this. But I support their right to say anything almost. So it becomes difficult because you'll hear me oftentimes saying, please, I implore you, don't stoop to their level. And there is a good counter argument to me to be made, but okay, then what? We just let them attack us with impunity and we don't fight back? But I assure you, the reason it's not just morally correct to not stoop to their level, we are winning. There are millions of people that are starting to wake up that aren't hardcore Republicans or hardcore Trump supporters. There may be moderates, they're in the middle. They may even lean left. And they're starting to see how unethical and corrupt the establishment Democratic Party is. Look at big YouTube personalities like Tim Pool. Tim Pool's a liberal. Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's a liberal. Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin's a classic liberal. These people all realize the Democratic Party is going insane. Now, yes, Rogan endorsed Bernie, but look what he got for it. Smeared as a white supremacist. But those people have huge followings. And so when they're waking up to the corruption and the unethical nature of the establishment Democrats, millions of people are waking up to it also. So please, that's why I don't stoop to their level. Now, I'm not suggesting that anyone, that caller or me or any of you are suggesting that. I'm just saying I often find myself being like, yeah, technically that's a crime. And yes, it should be brought up and they should be held accountable for the crime. But I don't think it's worth removal of office. Maybe her unethical nature in general should be worth removal of office. Does Pelosi look like a queen of zombies? Yeah, she is not a looker. Thank you, Kishki. Yeah, and by the way, Kishki's someone, I'm on this website called Above Top Secret. Y'all should check it out. It started off as a traditional conspiracy theory site, and there's still a lot of that, if you like it. There is a rich history on that site of any conspiracy you can think of. But it does a lot in politics now. Kishki's one of my friends from on there who gave me some good advice for my channel, so I really appreciate it. What's up, Great Informer? So I'll put the number up again if anyone wants to call. Oh, no, that's not the number. That's that Turley article again. Yeah, check it out, Above Top Secret. I put a lot of my material and videos on there, and when you see me do my time capsule segment, which I haven't done in a while, almost always that's because anytime I have a thought about politics, I'm putting it on Above Top Secret, and so then I'll remember something I wrote 4 years ago and be like, oh yeah, that'd be an interesting segment. Yeah, I agree with you on prior post. That's definitely the case. But we shouldn't stoop to their levels. So, here's the number if anyone wants to call in. I should memorize it. 724-915-1367. Call into the Normal America Show, coast to coast. Oh, wait, no, not coast to coast. Let's see, she needs something in her eyes. Yeah, I hate to pick on people's appearance and stuff. I really do. I don't do it often. But, a lot of the rumors you hear, Pelosi does seem sloshed most of the time, though, doesn't she? It's not a good look. And I think that, we're actually starting to see something. I'm amazed by how energetic and the wherewithal that Trump has at his age. Because look at someone like Bob Mueller. Mueller was supposedly this shrewd, intellectual investigator. You saw him at the hearings and it was like, woof. Here's a pseudo-senile old man that has no idea what he's talking about. You're starting to see that with Biden. I think you see some of that with Pelosi. You were seeing it with Hillary. This is the best they have to offer? I'm not saying you get to a certain age and that's it. Trump kind of disproves that, but, Pelosi, sheesh. Not a good look, you think? Yeah. I guess I'm being generous. Richard says, Democrats are a clear and present danger to our republic. I agree. But let me be specific. I'm not talking about the local Democrat at your school board. I'm not talking about your friend that's a Democrat. I'm in rural Pennsylvania. I kid you not. Democrats that run in local elections, some of them are better Republicans than the Republicans we have in Congress. The guy that ran in this town, he lost, but he ran, very first thing he said, pro-Second Amendment, don't infringe on it at all, anti-abortion, I'm pro-life. But he's a Democrat. He said good things about Trump. That guy I'm not bagging on. I'm not bagging on my friends. I'm not even bagging on everyone that hates Trump. There are reasons to dislike Trump. Fair enough. We all have our things, our issues, or our personal preferences. But it is clear to me that the people running the Democratic Party, and almost every single one of them at a national level, are corrupt. Or they're cheering for the corruption. Every single Democrat in the Senate voted for this coup against Trump today. Every single one. So I don't want to hear it's just a fringe thing. Remember, because they were trying to push, Pelosi's a moderate, and she's trying to stop impeachment. She knows that it's a bad idea. Well, they all voted for it. They all pushed the Kavanaugh crap. Now, I guess it's worth talking about. Here's somewhere where I'm a hypocrite. I'll talk about and I'm a hypocrite all the time. I try not to be, but I am. So one of the things I do is I can't stand polls I think the polls are lied all the way through 2016. See, here's the problem with polls, and you could see this admitted. They don't admit it a lot, but when they think it benefits them, they'll admit it. Did you see that Buttigieg forced the Des Moines Register poll to be shut down and not published right before the Iowa caucus? And if you read stories about it, they admitted this can have an effect because caucus goers tend to look, you want to vote for a winner. So if you thought that your candidate was doing low in that poll, you might change to one of the candidates that were doing more successful. And that's true of polls in general, particularly political polls. Sometimes it can have an effect where you could say, oh man, Ron Paul's getting devastated, so I guess I won't vote for him. That stuff happens. Or maybe it's Trump or Hillary or whatever. So I don't trust the polls, and it's not just, I don't trust them, no big deal. They actually can have a real impact, so that's what makes it so disgusting. And I think most of the national polls skew the same way. They skew Democrat. They always oversample Democrats. They always word the questions in a way that benefits the Democrat point of view. Not always, but much of the time. So I don't like talking about polls, but then I talk about polls. Showing that I'm a hypocrite. Thank you, Pam. Yeah, have a good night. Yeah, you're right, Plaza. Coin toss. Maybe I'll flip the coin here in a minute. But Gallup. So what you do is you don't look at a specific poll. You look at the trends from that specific poll. So if Gallup traditionally has Trump at 43%, 43%, 43%, and then all of a sudden it jumps up to 49%, which is where it has him now, that number might still be low. It still could be incorrect, but it shows that even at that poll, Trump's approval after this impeachment crap has gone way up. According to that Gallup poll, if you believe it, he's 3 points higher than Obama was at this point in Obama's presidency. And Obama and the Democrats easily won in 2012 in that election. Trump won the presidency at what, 41, 42% approval? If his number's at 49, it'll be a landslide. Yeah, have you ever been called for a poll, David? I haven't. Us normal Americans, they never seem to call. I don't know anyone who's ever been called. But it was predictable. See, here's the thing. They overplayed their hands. The establishment's overplaying their hands. They're so voracious. They're so transparently corrupt. They're so transparently liars that average people are waking up. See, when it wasn't this bad, when they just controlled the media, they controlled the entertainment industry, they controlled Silicon Valley, and they controlled academia, that was enough to convince people Trump's bad, yep. But then they got to keep, oh, and he's a Russian asset. Oh, and there's a P tape. Oh, and Mueller's going to bring him down. Oh, we need to investigate this. Oh, we need to investigate that. Oh, now we need to impeach over this. I've personally seen the evidence that he's a Russian spy. People hear that over and over again, and you're like, wait, what? Don't forget, 3 times articles of impeachment were drawn up to Trump before this. The first was over him saying shithole country. You can't make this up. The Washington Post ran a story the day Trump got elected. Today the impeachment begins. Everybody knows what's going on. There's actually smart people on the left that hate Trump, that want him out of office, that have been warning about this. Jimmy Dore, Michael Tracy, even Glenn Greenwald. They all said these corrupt intel agencies and their investigations, and particularly the impeachment, is a huge mistake. It will end up increasing Trump's support, and it looks like that's what's happening. Even a C-SPAN poll I saw my buddy Drone Tech sent me today of people that were watching the impeachment live. This is C-SPAN, which you would assume would lean left-wing. Overwhelmingly, we're against removal of Trump. 67% or something like that. Right, Harmony, I agree. If a poll has a 4-point margin of error, it's basically garbage. There we go. Yeah. Put me on a bike with a vest like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Oh no, I guess that guy's jogging and you'd be the guy on the bike. So yeah, not a good look for the Democrats here. The polling for Trump's going up. Now, let me say this though. Never, ever, 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 in anything in life, and particularly in politics, make the mistake that the Democrats made in 2016, that the establishment made in 2016, and that's getting overconfident. I don't care if you're playing chess, if you're arm wrestling someone, if you're going for a promotion against someone, whatever. Never underestimate your opponent. It is a huge gift to them to do it. The establishment has decades of corruption in their back. They have billions upon billions of dollars, probably trillions of dollars at their asset, whether it be through people like Soros or Bloomberg, or it just be all of the media companies that are going to be on their side. They have incredible control over the cultural narrative. They have almost no ethics to speak of and will be corrupt at the drop of a hat to try to win. So do not get overconfident, no matter how good it looks for the Republicans and Trump. You do what you can to help win the election, if that's something that you're interested in, like you're losing. Play like it's tied, or, act like it's tied, or act like you're the underdog. Don't make the mistake the Democrats made. And I see it when I go to Republican meetings around here. Oh, Trump's got it in the bag. I'm like, huge mistake to have that attitude. Huge mistake. You're far better off to say, he doesn't have a chance. I got to do everything possible. You'd be better. Now, that's nonsense too. But still, get out there, vote. Right? Do what you can. Get the information out there. Even if you don't like Trump, even if you're on the left and you aren't going to vote for Trump, you should still be upset about this corruption. Get out there and tell people about this corruption. Get a real party for the left. Get real people that want to make a change on the left. I disagree with those policies. I disagree with leftist socialist policies, progressive type ideas. But I would rather have a progressive or a socialist that actually cared about people and didn't endorse corruption, like Bernie Sanders, like Tulsi Gabbard, the corrupt hypocrites they are. Yeah, they'll pull out all the tricks, Empire Post. They really will. Shining star. Me, Richard? I hope so. I have fun doing this. I really do. I'm glad that people are enjoying it. And it does feel nice to have a bigger audience now. In case you're wondering just a little about the channel. So I had this big goal benchmark set because when I started YouTube, it was literally like for 3 weeks, I was able to mobile live stream. And then they changed their rules where you had to have 1,000 subscribers. So for like a year and a half, I'm churning out videos, like, gotta get to 1,000. So I finally get to 1,000 and it's like, oh, you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours watched in the past year. So I'm 300 hours away, but I'm getting there. I'll be there by the end of the month, hopefully. So, yeah, Harmony, you don't like their stand on anything. I get it. Let me put it to you this way, Harmony. And that's fine, and I basically agree with you, but we do not want a government where we only have one political party. It would be a huge mistake, because that party would eventually have the corrupt get in charge of it, and then they wouldn't. I mean, we already basically see it with two parties. So there is a need for at least two parties. Like, I don't know what entertainment you all follow. I was a big fan of professional wrestling when I was younger. So this is like early 90s into like 2000, when I graduated high school in 2002. Wrestling was at its best when there were competitors. So you had the WWF, now the WWE, WCW, right? The competition drove them to be better. Now that it's just one company, it's like, it's the same with political parties. Now, it only works if you have political parties, even if you disagree with them, that are actually interested in benefiting the people of the country. But you want those diverse ideas so the cream rises to the top. So even though I'm not a Democrat, even though I'm not a leftist, I understand the importance of having a non-corrupt political party that represents the left. I totally understand it. That doesn't mean I'm going to agree with them on many policies, but some stuff I will. For example, it used to be the left that were the champions of free speech. That's one of the most important issues to me. Right? Go back to the times of comedian Lenny Bruce. He was getting arrested every evening for obscenity. Couldn't do certain comedy bits. Why? Well, people in the religious right, Catholics predominantly. You had the comic book code that said you can't do certain things in comic books. That came from the right. You had Jack Dorsey in the early 90s trying to censor video games. That came from the right. Now the right is the party of free speech. And the left is against free speech. But that traditional idea that happened to come from the left was something I agreed with. Jordan Peterson talks about this. How do we define left versus right? How do you define liberal versus conservative? There's tons of ways to define it. And the way he defines it is my favorite way. So let me try to... We have in this world hierarchies. And what a hierarchy is shows that in any given thing, skill set, job, life skills, whatever, there is a hierarchy in that there will be people at the bottom, there will be people at the top. And our life's made up of just a complex system of many, many, many hierarchies, more than you could count. But it is impossible to get rid of these hierarchies. Anytime you put value on something, there's a hierarchy. So just take the most primitive thing you can imagine. Humans need food to survive. Therefore, getting food will result in a hierarchy. Go back to the days of cavemen. There will be people that are way better at getting food, and there will be people that are really bad. But that's the system. Because we have a value on getting food, automatically there'll be people good, people not so good, people in the middle, right? So they're inevitable. Hierarchies are inevitable. So knowing that, here's what the difference between the left and the right is. The right understands that hierarchies are inevitable and supports the hierarchy. The left says, yes, but you have to be careful. And we should also challenge the hierarchy, because if we don't, corruption will end up taking over it and we'll forget about the people at the bottom. They'll fall off. Both of those are noble ideas. The problem with the ridiculous far left is they say there should be no hierarchy. That's what communism and socialism is. Government should control everything. Your competency shouldn't matter. You see this in everything. It doesn't matter who gets the best grade in the test. We should instead be focused on your skin color. Right? And things like that. So, hey, I got a call. I will accept it. But yeah, I love talking about that type of stuff.
Call from
Kaseke.
to accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
Hey, thanks for calling. Who do we have?
This is Kaseke.
Oh, what's up? Nice to finally hear from you, man. We've known each other for a while on ATS.
We have. I just thought I'd call in. Sounded like you didn't have too many people calling in.
I know. I think I'm intimidating. I think that's what it is. Not really.
Oh, very, very. I was terrified.
Yeah. Unapproachable. By the way, that was one of my selling points running for Congress. I told everyone, when I run for Congress, the happiest day of me being in office, if I would win, would be when some regular person came up to me at the grocery store and said, "What the hell did you vote for that for?" Because I want to be approachable, because to me, being a congressperson is no more important than being a welder, or anything, so.
Well, and I think that's how it should be.
Right.
I think that the politics has become so warped from what it should have originally been. It's sad.
Yeah, and one of the things that makes me sad, just riffing off that, is I can't believe how many people I personally know that have left personal relationships fall apart over politics. I mean, to me, it's just crazy. And I know you see it on when we're on Above Top Secret, you see it there where it's people can't have a high-spirited disagreement anymore. It's just no, you're horrible. I don't know. It just, I'm trying my part to do a little better, but I fall short too.
Yeah, I try to avoid that too. I don't use the terms libtard or
you won't hear me say that. Yep.
Things like that. It just doesn't add to the discourse.
I agree. So what'd you think of the impeachment? Anything shock you or any big takeaway from it?
No, not really.
That's kind of
Mitt Romney switching sides. Not that much of a surprise. Trump really went after him when he was against Trump.
Right.
But I don't think Mitt Romney is the northern light for morality.
Right.
We now know that his son works for Burisma.
Yep.
Not a real good look for someone who's a Mormon is supposed to be, a moral compass.
Well, he made his money at Bain Capital with like basically screwing people on credit card interest rates. So, which is fine, but don't play the moral game then, right? Like you don't get to live those two things simultaneously. If you're going to be, hey, I'm Mr. Capitalist, my son works for Burisma, whatever, that's fine. I'll still say, hey, if your policies are good, maybe I'll still vote for you. But then don't get in the moral high horse. He just
exactly.
He epitomizes to me. One of the things I thought about is, what do you think if you're like, one of the things I always try to think about is the average person that votes, whether it be Republican or Democrat. So imagine, it blows my mind when I go to like Republican rallies now. I met this woman at this rally. She was from Detroit area, moved to rural Pennsylvania like 10, 12 years ago, said she never voted once in her life. She went to a Trump rally with her work and fell in love with it. Now she's like, helps organize campaign events and things like that. This woman gets $0. She's traveling around the state doing what she can. She has that much passion. And look, I think Trump has a lot of those people. Bernie probably has a lot of those people. But every politician has some of those people. So how would you feel if you're one of those people and you supported Mitt Romney in 2012 and did all that work for him, and now you're looking today and you're just like, oh man, it's gotta be sad for them, I would guess.
I think the people supporting Mitt Romney they have a very specific ideology, and they're supporting him because of that.
Yeah.
And like I said, polygamy, big mistake Romney made.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see him. He's going to be voted out.
Now he just got. Maybe someone in the chat or this. He just got elected, right? So he has what, like 4 more years on his term after 2020?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I've heard they're talking about a recall, doing a recall election, which could happen. If enough of his constituents are furious over this, they might not let him serve out the rest of his term.
Well, yeah, and where he got voted in, it's not just Mormons.
Right.
There are other people there that are, I'm sure they're angry. I'm angry. But, ultimately I don't care, though, because Trump's going to get voted back in. In this second term, this is going to be really something to behold.
Yeah, I agree. Now, again, I always put the caveat that who knows the corruption that will come in the 2020 election against him. But I agree. It looks like he will be reelected. And that, I hope, will be a mandate. See, the one thing that worries me about Trump, not really worries, but that I could really be critical of Trump is he did not put the best people around him. Now I understand why. He had a bunch of vipers and liars all around him, and it's tough to find people in Washington that aren't in that class. But I hope that when he wins again, he starts to say, I was right. Not my advisors, not the people that, on Fox. Him. Trump was right. Trump won, not them. And I hope that he starts listening to his heart more and says, I'm going after the corruption. I'm going to stop these foreign regime change wars. I'm not going to listen to the John Boltons of the world that are just going to backstab me in a moment's notice. So I think you're right. If he gets reelected, I think we'll see a lot of that.
Well, keep in mind, he has been right from the very start when no one believed in him. And I think part of the problem with everything that's happening now is because there has been a permissive environment of leaks being acceptable.
Right.
And that, during the Obama administration, that would not have been acceptable.
Nope.
During any previous administration, that was not acceptable. And now it's become permissive. People they're leaving his administration. They're writing books.
Yep.
That's just what they do now. And that it's unacceptable. And I think Bolton, with the Bolton book, now they are clamping down, and I think this is where they're going to clamp down. It's close enough to the next election. They know that it's not going to be acceptable, and leaks. I mean, I would hope they start getting prosecuted. This is something that would have been prosecuted in previous administrations.
Absolutely.
It's unacceptable.
Yep. No, I agree, and I hope you're right. I hope that they do clamp down going into the election. So I'm going to let you go because I'm going to try to get out of here by 1, so I'll wrap up with... Man, you're always welcome to call in. It's great to finally hear your voice. We've talked to each other for years on Buff Top Secret.
Love
you guys
to talk to you.
Yeah. So thanks so
right.
much, and
Take
call
care.
in anytime. Yep. Take it easy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Do I have the best callers or what? That's 3 for 3. We're nailing it tonight. Yeah, absolutely great points. I think I do hope that the corruption starts to be hammered down on. Talking about Trump always being right. I mean, obviously there are things I disagree with him, but Trump getting on board on things before any other person was doing it, or any other mainstream politician at least. Look at illegal immigration. Republicans wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, mainly because the establishment Republicans were benefiting. The Democrats get demographic changes, they import a bunch of new voters. The Republicans get to give their business owner supporters cheap labor. So that's why it's been a problem for so many years. Trump understood that despite the media saying it was racist or, no one was interested in it, that there was a large vein of this country that were sick and tired of illegal immigration. It is not a racial issue. I can tell you just anecdotally, and the numbers bear this out as well. The people I know that are the most voracious, angriest, most effective people at arguing against illegal immigration are legal immigrants. People that came here and did the process the right way, that see all of the time and effort and energy they put in to coming to a country that they love, that they scratched tooth and nail to get here, that they did everything right so that they could be a supporting member of this country. They get surpassed by people that come in that hate the country, that do it the wrong way and do it illegally. So this narrative that it's just what Rick Wilson say on CNN that Don Lemon yucked it up about, 10-tooth racists trying to keep the brown horde out. That's ridiculous. Legal Hispanic immigrants, for example, that have come here. Why do you think that Trump's numbers with Hispanics are as high as they are? Over 30%. Now, you might say, well, still, that's 70%, 60-70% that are against him. Well, can you believe it with the propaganda? Imagine if there wasn't the propaganda machine going against Trump that there is. Even I in points of my life have fallen for propaganda. I probably will again. So it's hard to blame people. You're a legal immigrant. You're working 9 to 5. You're trying to feed your family. You did things the right way. And all you know is every time you turn on the TV, Donald Trump's trying to lock your kids in cages. It's a lie. It's garbage. Trump's sticking up for that legal immigrant as well. And hopefully they're starting to wake up. But Trump was on that issue, and everyone said, no, it's a loser, it's a loser, it's a loser. Who was right? Trump. Trump's right with his gut feeling. Why are we arming al-Nusra? Why are we arming Al-Qaeda and ISIS in Syria to fight Assad? Shouldn't we be working with Assad and the Russians to fight the Islamic terrorists? Trump was absolutely right about that. So I hope, I should have asked, I forgot to ask how to pronounce his name. Kishki. That's what I always call it. I know that's wrong. But he's absolutely right that Trump has been right about this stuff. And I hope that he's right that if Trump's reelected, then he starts to say, you know what? All these so-called experts that are around me, they're not the ones that people elected. I'm the one that people elected. So I'm going to go with my feelings. Not to say he shouldn't listen to input from people that agree and disagree with him. But really, John Bolton? All these people he puts around him, oh, Mr. President, do this. Oh, Mr. President, do that. Don't talk about illegal immigration. Don't talk about healthcare. Oh, you can't be, you have to be more civil. You can't be going after the Democrats like this and that. Oh, we have to leave troops over here. Oh, we have to bomb Syria. Get them out. Trust your gut, Trump. And I think that if he gets reelected, he'll have more of that. Look, I don't care how great of a businessman or how great of a person you are. Like Trump, it's got to be intimidating to become the president of the United States. It probably takes a year or so to get your feet under you. And so I think he'll be far more confident in himself come 2020. So I shut down the phone line, so don't even bother to try to call in. I have to have the website up for it to ring. I can get it to come through my cell phone as well, but who needs that? People call me, the wife will get mad. I'll have ladies calling me all hours of the night. I saw you on the Normal America show. What an articulate, handsome young man. I know. Yeah, right, Modus. There's still a huge push. I say it all the time. The establishment, the globalist agenda, is the biggest threat to them is the middle class in the United States. But also the middle class in places like UK, Germany, France. They want a total one world government, a total globalist setup. That's what the people of the establishment want. They want feudalism. They want them to live in their ivory towers and their castles, and the rest of us to all beg to them for our survival. And they'll happily give you your food as long as you worship them. That's what it's about. I say it almost every live show I've been saying it. Go to California. Go watch Zuckerberg live in his mansion as he goes for his daily jog, stepping over fecal matter and hypodermic needles in the street as people are suffering there. People making $100,000 a year can't afford rent there. That's what they want. Oh, no, we'll give you socialism. Free medical care for you. It'll be garbage. Free food for you. Here's all the food stamps you'd want. Here's some public housing for you. It's all good. I'm so generous. I give you all that stuff. Don't you dare criticize me, though, or we'll shut you off. That's what they want for the world. And the biggest impediment to that is people, the entire idea of the United States is the biggest impediment to that. Personal responsibility and personal liberty. It's anathema to everything the globalists want. So they need to wipe out the middle class. Because the middle class earns for themselves, has personal responsibility. They're not dependent on the government. Did you notice the scowl that Trump got when he talked about the success of people getting off welfare and food stamps? Oh, no, that's a big no-no to the globalists. They'd sooner everyone be on food stamps. They don't want people actually succeeding in their life on their own. They want them dependent. They want obedient sheep that are dependent on their shepherd in order to survive. That's what they want. Yeah, Richard, and that's a big issue with me, these foreign regime change wars. Trump bombed Syria. I criticized him. I did, immediately. I got crap from Trump supporters over it, but I called him out. He's had a lot of bombs in Yemen and places like that I'm not a big fan of. This talk of Venezuela. Bolsonaro and Guaido. We shouldn't get involved. But so far, much better than Obama, much better than W. Bush, much better than Bill Clinton, much better than H.W. Bush. And I think a lot of the crap, the pro-warmongering stuff, is because he's listening to these garbage people like Bolton around him. So, look, and by no means am I a pacifist either. Not at all. But there's a difference between us being attacked or us defending ourselves versus overthrowing Libya, overthrowing Syria, going into Iraq, Afghanistan, whatever we're doing there still. That's different. So, yeah, right, small spats. And look, the days of, our army, by the way, just an aside, our military is still geared up and funded to fight these big, country versus country wars. And that's not what we're going to see in the future. It'll be more proxy wars, wars on terrorism, things like that. How effective is an Abrams tank in a world where a terrorist could blow it up with an RPG? Right? So we're not even building our military to fight the kind of wars that wars are progressing to. You know what I mean? It's going to be more of that small spat stuff. So, all right, 12:58. I should probably be wrapping up soon. I can't believe I still have 44 people here. Anyone particular subject? Something non-political you'd like to know about my life? Autocorrect's beating up David Woodruff. Yeah, we'll give you a minute here. Yeah, Invader Sim, that's exactly what I'm saying. Great comment. Do not believe we're out of the woods, he says. It's far from over. We must keep our eyes on the Second Amendment. Keep that as top priority, folks. They hate America because America is a symbol for liberty. Exactly. Now, I understand the importance of the Second Amendment, but I put it right there with the First Amendment. They're both we can't keep the Second Amendment without the right to speak, and we can't keep the right to speak without the right to defend ourselves. So they're definitely one and 1A, they're codependent on each other, equally important. Honestly, my expertise, that's not a good word, my forte, we'll put it that way, is free speech and arguing the First Amendment. And what I mean by that is I understand the importance of the Second Amendment, but it blows my mind when I talk to people that are really knowledgeable about the Second Amendment. Not just their history of it, but also just their knowledge of firearms and things like that. For me, I shoot guns, I hunt, but I'm a novice. I have family members that own a gun shop, though, and they're really into it. So, yeah, we can't leave ourselves to become complacent. Ever, 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 ever. Always vigilant. Celebrate the wins. Hey, acquittal today, that's a victory. Tomorrow starts the next impeachment, guaranteed. Tomorrow starts the next coup attempt, guaranteed. So yeah, you celebrate when you can. And always have fun. Relax. Don't leave things get to you too much, The stakes are high. I explained this. I'm repeating myself, but hey, it's worth repeating. One of the reasons I do what I do is I truly love this country. And I love the idea of this country and who made this country successful, the people that came before me. And I'm talking everyone, the people that died in wars, the founding fathers, the slaves that were freed and went on to just want to be left alone by the government and be able to be treated as equal. Scientists we have, artists we've had, musicians we've had, great men and women. We stand on the shoulders of giants. I don't want to be part of the generation that throws that all away. So that's why I'm fighting. But having said that, picking on the curtains again. I'm at work. What can I do? I don't get to change the curtains, but I'm trying to get a background. That like a pop-up background, pop it up, and then you won't see it anymore. My goodness. I feel like if it's not the Russians keeping me from a ton of subscribers, it must be the curtains. But, yeah, but having said all that, life's awesome, Find loved ones. It don't matter if they agree with you politically or not. Have fun, Look, I do think that I'm trying to help the country by doing this, but I'm not such a great person that I would do this if it was a chore to me. I really enjoy doing this. I really do. That's one of the main reasons I'm doing it. Have fun. Don't get depressed. I know it's easier said than done, but I have a great life. I love it. And things aren't always as bad as they seem. We hear it's doom and gloom all the time. So it's a fine line. Maintain vigilance. Understand that our country is under attack, but also understand that life's good, So try to run that fine line. Curtains for me, Preacher. Thanks to Preacher, I'll have a new background at my home here, right tomorrow. So just give you a quick on the agenda for me before I wrap it up here then. Calendar matches. It's a bad calendar. I basically work in a institutional type environment. What do you want from me? Tomorrow at 8 p.m., I will be on the Patriot Hour show. Let me tell you a little about the Patriot Hour. First off, he has like 170,000 subscribers, so it's good exposure for me. But it's more than just that. I think for those of you that are into Q, I think Michael at the Patriot Hour is really big into Q. He deals more in these kind of those bigger type of conspiracy. So he's looking at the conspiracy on a level it's a little deeper than I am. I'm looking at the evidence as I can see it. He's looking at evidence of like more of a conspiracy going on behind the scenes. But he's a great person. The first thing that he said that I was just like, yes, this is a great show. He starts out every one of his shows saying, don't just believe me, do your own research. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with him more. He puts out great content. The name of the show is The Patriot Hour, just how it sounds. So check out that show. I'll be on there at 8 p.m. tomorrow night. So come support me and put in the chat, Rob's better than Michael. Rob knows what he's talking about more than Michael. No, it won't be like that. It'll be good. So, yeah, thank you, Vader Sim. I agree. 8 p.m. tomorrow. Friday at noon on my channel, I'll be doing my live stream. I'll be putting videos out Just 5 to 10 minute videos out probably tomorrow. The next day. Tomorrow's going to be, I got a busy work day, so I don't know how much content I'll get out during the day, but look for it. If you could please like, if you haven't already, just hit the little thumbs up button down there. That kind of helps increase my exposure. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Or if you don't like me, then hit unsubscribe and tell me what a piece of garbage I am. That's fine too. Please share this with on your social media platforms with friends and family if you can. I'd really appreciate it. Link in the description. I got people watching on D Live right now. I got people watching on YouTube, people watching on Facebook. There's a link if you check out the descriptions on any of those platforms you're at where you can follow me on the rest. So a link to my YouTube, a link to my D Live, Twitter, all of that good stuff. If you would consider supporting me on PayPal or Patreon, I'd really appreciate it. I'm very transparent about where all the money goes. I'm trying to get new computers, new backgrounds, maybe some new curtains, things like that. If you can't give money, don't worry, no big deal. I'll still keep doing the show. Soon I'll be able to do super chats. I just got to get to there. So if you prefer to do that, that's cool too. But yeah, you guys are the best. Thank you so much. Red Pill 78, I will try. I'll check that out. Yeah, 42 likes. You guys are the best. You really are. Right. Watch the panels. I know. Yeah, right. Paint the walls. I will not be painting the walls. For those of you who don't know, if I have new people here, I do home health care. When I'm at work, I'm here 24/7. And I literally work half the week. I work Sundays through Thursday. So Sunday night through Thursday. So when I'm here, I'm off the clock doing the show. That's why I do it at 11. But I can't change the background. So I'm getting this pop-up thing that'll be a better background. Now, when I'm at home, so you'll see my videos tomorrow night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those videos, that's my studio. So that's what I'm trying. But thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. I'm hoping to get my voice back so I can scream for you all a little. I do get a little antsy and fired up at time to time. So, no, I really appreciate it. Everybody have a good night. Thank you so much. And thanks for watching the show. Have a good one.